That took longer than usual to go live. All right. Hi guys, this is Amber Craft here. Let me make sure I muted myself. Yes, I did. Okay. I'm like, we're running behind because we had technical issues, as usual with me. I don't know why nothing likes me. All right. Today, this is the Author Indie Spotlight. I am here with the lovely Ellie York. And tell us about yourself.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Ella York. I write women's fiction, but I also am in the process of submitting YA fantasy, and I have a crime series in the works. So I do a little bit of everything that you can possibly think of, and I like it that way. So what we're talking about today is my series that I completed. Well, I didn't even complete it because I'm still working on it. But I've completed the third book in the series, and it's called The Uncovering the Black Rose Saga. The first book is called When Love Isn't Enough. The second book is called The Rebirth. And the third book is called Between Two Lovers. That one's one of my favorites. And the fourth book, I actually just scheduled to finish December 1st. So I have a lot going on with that, but I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Well, I'm grateful to have you. I wanted to try to read, like I was saying, all three books before I came on, but time just didn't allow it. But this is the book she is talking about. We've got the first one here, and I love the rose on this one. A little fire around it. That's book 2. I love that. That's so pretty. And then book 3. Now I have to say I love black roses. So that was the first thing that caught me to your genre. I was like, all right, yeah, I could get interested in this. And then the story just kind of went from there and took over for me. So like I was just saying before we got on, I tried to finish book 2 and get into book 3 to kind of get a scope of the entire series so far. I didn't know there was a book 4. I'm excited to finish book 2 and get into book 3. Hopefully you'll have book 4 out now pretty soon.
Yeah.
Do you have a scheduled release date for that yet?
Yeah, that one I actually just announced maybe last week that it's going to come out December 1st.
Okay. See, I'm so behind on everybody's videos.
Yeah, December.
Yeah, I was reading, looking at the front covers. You said book 1 you published November of 16, book 2 January of 17. When did you put book 3? I haven't even gotten a chance to look at June 17. So that's really close together.
Yeah, I was like ranking those things out, and then what ended up happening was I stopped to write my YA fantasy novel, and that has taken me forever to write. Like I just finished adding 20,000 words to that one. I've had a lot going on with that book. So now I'm going to dive right back into this one, and these come so much easier. So there may be a book 5 sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you write a book and then release, or did you just keep writing as you were doing the releasing? How did that process go for you?
I wrote and released, and then I wrote another. So the first book, I started it September 2nd of 2016. I know that because that was the very first day I actually wrote something pen to paper as an author.
Oh, wow.
And I finished that one by September 26th, which was my 30th birthday. And so we did like a couple of quick runs of edits. And then I'm like, I want to get this book out by the end of the year. So I got the book out by the end of the year. And then I started the next one, I want to say in January. I finished that one in a month. And then we had gotten into a routine. So we popped that one out. I say a month or two off. Then I started writing that one and published that one. So it was just kind of like back to back to back.
Oh, wow. See, I have to be writing constantly. So like even now as I'm editing, I'm plotting and outlining or whatever. My next book, I don't know how to just sit down and write, then edit, then get it out. So
yeah,
I definitely applaud you for that. I have to. I don't know. I guess I got way too much in my head. I guess I don't know. I can't.
Well, it's more and more difficult projects going on. So I like for example, I need to start writing book four. Like I really need to start writing book four. But all I've been doing is just kind of writing down my thoughts and kind of what I want to happen because I've been so focused on this YA fantasy. So I will say trying to do the traditional publishing route is just it's changing my whole perspective on the game because I have no control over that part. So it's
Mhm.
always just two moving pieces at the same time, which wasn't an issue before.
Yeah, this definitely. See, with the novel I'm writing, I'm gonna try to go traditional, but I'm still writing the next one just in case. That way, I have time in case I self-publish. So I definitely get where you're coming from. Um, since this is so many books, how I read a little bit in the back, but tell everybody how you came up with the idea for these girls.
Okay, so honestly, it all started from like a joking conversation with one of my friends cuz I was, I had just turned 30 or I was getting ready to turn 30 cuz I finished about the time I turned 30. So I'm getting ready to turn 30. I'd been married for a couple of years. A lot of my friends had been married or, were dating and going through like the dating scene. And I was just thinking to myself, like we were talking about some crazy stuff that was going on, not even with us, but just with other people or stuff that we'd seen on TV. And I was like, I should write a book. And it was almost like the second I said that, like the wheels in my head started turning and these ideas started coming to me. And then I said, if I wanted a book that was inclusive of so many different types of women, like career wise, where they were in their lives, even though they're the same age, what would these characters look like? So I actually started doing voice recordings of different characters and, kind of what I would want them to be and what kind of, traits they needed to possess. And then I started thinking about things that are so taboo for women to talk about, but it shouldn't be. It should be things
Right.
that we feel comfortable talking about and we should find that sisterhood in all of our lives. So I said, I really need to find a way to get these messages across in a way that women understand and they also learn from them. So that's where I came up with the idea of writing it from a first person point of where you could actually be in their head hearing what they think because I thought that was important for these girls. And as the ideas started forming, the situations started forming, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna write this book, I'm gonna do it. So I did. That's where it came to help women have a voice and have friends that they can deal with and interact with, even if they themselves have never been through it. Because you can't help but look at some of those situations and want to jump in and intervene.
Right. And that's, I guess, the entire. I've had books where it separates each character by chapter, but there were so many characters, I was like, I feel like I'm going to get lost. Like, that was my fear throughout probably half the first book is I'm going to get lost. I'm going to forget where each person left off. But because there's sometimes where they're in each other's scenes and it still flowed like a book without even having it cut by person. And so I found that really refreshing because, like I said, my fear was like, oh no, I'm going to forget. Like, one person's going to story's going to go, and then I'm just going to get lost. I'm so afraid. And I was, and I don't know why I had that fear, but I was like, okay, well, we can get through this. And then it did for whatever reason. It was easy, seamless. It was like there weren't even chapters with their names. And so then I got into book two, and then you introduced the boyfriend and other characters, and I'm like, okay, I can do this because I've got the rhythm of the girls, and it was it was just seamlessly easy. And I think with trends in writing and stuff, this is definitely a trend that's happening is separating characters by chapters, and I find that I love it. Like it's probably only the third book I've read like that, but I absolutely love it. And the stories each girl's story, like you said, is so different, but yet they are what real women go through and what we don't want to talk about. And even amongst the friends, nobody wants to say, yeah, my life is just going to hell. Can you help me? And I don't know why. I don't know if it's that we're afraid of what our friends will think of us or if we're.
I think it's a combination of being afraid of what your friends are going to think of you and also just being afraid to have that conversation and be that vulnerable, because we're always told as women that we have to be strong, we have to hold ourselves together, and we have to kind of be everything to everybody. And so that doesn't allow room for us to fall apart. But at the end of the day, if you don't get it out, then that's when you start to really have issues with mental health, and
Mhm.
women just kind of falling apart because they feel like they don't have any. And I wanted to start that conversation.
Yeah, I think that's probably why women have more mental anxiety and stress than men, because we are so worried about not necessarily how we will be perceived, but just what will happen from that perception.
Yeah. And
So,
I mean, and it's fair to say how you'll be perceived might be a concern for you too, because it is the world we live in. You know,
mhm.
everybody wants to share their opinion about you. Everybody has something to say, especially online and on social media.
Right,
It's very, very critical. But at the end of the day, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all live life differently. And we have to respect those differences. And the only way that's going to happen is by having these conversations.
right. And I think in today's digital world, we filter stuff and we edit stuff, and
Always.
and you can't do that with your friends. And these are girls that have their own separate situations, and then they've lost a good friend, which is what the whole black rose symbolizes, is the friend they've lost. And it just, I don't know, there's something about not being able to edit yourself once it's out there. You can't take that back from your friends, and they're supposed to know you the most, but then there's still that fear that they're going to be like, nope, I'm done. I've known you for 10 years, but I'm done.
Yeah, seriously. And and honestly, if that's the case and that's what your friends do, you need new friends. That
Right,
is the I'm like a new circle. I say it all the time on my channel. I'm like, if you cannot be yourself and be vulnerable in who you are with the people that are supposed to be closest to you, you need a new circle.
yeah,
You can't choose your family, you can't choose your children, but your friends are the one choice that you do have in your life, and you need to choose them well.
right. And I mean, that goes for anybody, even us as writers. We kind of still have that problem, is we have our group, but they don't really understand us. But then if they're not motivating you, if people are just tearing you down, then you need to get new
Mhm.
people.
Exactly. You need new people, new friends. And that's a really funny thing that you say, because I've heard so many authors say, I watch a lot of YouTube and author too. And I hear so many authors say all the time that they don't have people. And it's like, it's true. You have your friends and your family, and they will love and support you as much as they can through the part that they know. But when it comes to your writing, I mean, nobody but another author is going to understand that anxiety of, oh my gosh, I put there and there were mistakes and I found them after the fact and there's nothing I can do about it. Like,
Right,
no, but an author is going to understand that anxiety over getting a bad review, or whether or not someone, found your book beneficial or thought it was, crap, for lack of a better way of putting it. Nobody but another author is going to get that way that you feel. So it's just about building a community of friends. And that also includes your author friends, because as an author, you need that support. You really do.
right. And if you live in a big town, it's a little bit easier. But like, I live in a smaller town, and there's poetry groups, but there's no author groups. There's no big writing thing. Even I tried to find one during camp, and they have a write in, but it was kind of a, yeah, I write, what do you do, type pretentious thing. And I just think
Mm-hmm.
you got to surround yourself with the right people.
Nobody has time for those people. No, and I live in a big city. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's a big city, and there is a huge writing community here, but I'm just not a part of it. My big community is online. See, I work full time. I have a
Mhm.
3-year old. I'm married. I have my writing. I write. I have YouTube. I have so much going on that I just don't have time to go sit in meetings and stuff and do these write-ins right now at this
Right,
particular, right. I don't have time. So I found a lot of comfort in the online community and getting to know people through online groups and chats and messaging some of my
right.
favorite authors and online. So it's really important that you find that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I thought it was a nice correlation, just like I said, because there are this group of girls going through so many different things. It reminds me of Author too, because there are so many of us, but we're still this small little niche compared to everyone on the outside looking in. And I mean, did you always want to be an author, or did the book idea happen and you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna do it? Or
That was it. I hated writing. I like vowed to myself. I went and got my master's, and I vowed to myself after I had to write this 30-page paper that I would never write another word again. I said, I'm done. I'm not doing it again.
I don't blame
I
you.
don't hesitate. No more writing. I hate it. And so I stuck with that for a long time. And then that idea just kind of happened. And I realized that when I was writing something that I wanted to write, it didn't feel like work. It was
Exactly.
more of a like stress relief, and it was more of something that made me feel better. And so I said, okay, I can do this. And then I sat down in front of the computer, and never having been a writer unless I had to for school. And I started writing. And as the ideas came out, I actually started giving some of the pages to my mom. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be good enough to do anything with. And I started giving it to my mom, and she came back and she said, this is really good. I mean, really good. And I'm like, you think so? You think I should? She's like, absolutely, you should. So when I finished it and I got it kind of out into the world and I received a lot of good feedback, that kind of motivated me to keep going. So that had no intention on writing at all. I'm like, I'm content to just work on trying the corporate ladder. That's what I know. And it just, I don't know, it took on a life of its own.
And now you're hooked.
And now I'm hooked. They can try. I'm not going anywhere.
It was like, because if you just wanted to get that one book out or that one story out, you wouldn't be writing in the whole, what, 2, 3 other genres?
Yeah, no, and it's so funny. Like I said, I finished my YA fantasy, which is literally like 400 pages. I just printed off the last of it so we can start looking at it today. And I'm like, wow, like I wrote a whole book. It still blows my mind because it's something that I never saw myself doing, yet here I'm now doing it a fourth time. So it's surreal. I never wanted to do it, but now I'm hooked. Like you said, I'm
That's what I
stuck.
was gonna say. You said you wrote a book. You wrote 4 books. Like these 3+, what you got?
And I'm not done yet.
What?
I could do this for real full time. I would love it. That would be ideal for me.
Now, when you started writing this story, did you see it as 3+ books or just one book?
I knew it was going to be more than one book because friendships are complicated. These situations are complicated, and I don't really think there can be a resolution in one book. Now, what
Right.
I originally wanted to do was have 1 through 3, just um, just this, right now, right here, this is what they're going through. And then I wanted to have like a couple other books if the series was doing well to go back and explain their upbringing. So one book would have focused on Elena and Desi, because they didn't know each other. The other one would have focused on Victoria and Taj because they grew up together. And then I wanted to do one called The Lost Rose that went through all of Arya's story. So that was the plan. But as I started writing these books, everybody's like, when is the next one coming out? When is the next one coming out? So I'm like, okay, well, I was going to end it in 3 books. And then I was like, okay, I'll write a fourth. And when I started talking about writing the fourth, they're like, okay, well, what's happening after that? So now I'm like, well, I guess I can't finish it in 4. So I think I'm struggling because I was planning to end it in
Right.
3 and a fourth book. And I have to figure out what's going to happen after that because I'm one of those writers where when I write a series, because almost all of my stuff is series writing. So when I write the series, I have to know what's happening in the next book so I know where to take this book,
Right.
what I need to have happen, what growth the characters need to have in there. So now I'm struggling because I need to know what's going to happen next, and I don't know.
So now people have turned you into a pantser.
They have. I'm like, okay, I have to let me get my act together and figure out what's going to happen in the 5th book so I know what I'm doing in the 4th one.
See, now I know why you stopped and you were working on the other series, because you're like, okay, I'm done, and then everybody else is like, no, you're not.
nope, you're not finished. Just kidding.
Now,
And I
book.
knew, like I said, I decided to go into 4 books. I know what I want to happen in book 4. I knew where I wanted to end it. There was a happy ending for most of them, and I was fine with that. But now they're like, no, it can't finish in book 4. So figure out what's happening after that.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to look. Book 1 is 23 chapters, which is about 230 words. 200 words. Words. 238
Short.
pages. that's a that's a lot of chapters for 200 words. And book 2 is 26 chapters, but it's actually a little bit less at 224. Now they're all basically about the same. Are you trying to keep it at the same, I don't know, length, or is it just where it ends?
I think book 4 is probably going to be a little bit longer because there's a lot happening in book 4. They're at Taj's wedding. So it's a whole lot. So they're going to have their own individual things going on. And then there's this wedding. So I think that one's going to be a little bit longer. I like books that are a little bit easier to read, which is why I broke the chapters up.
Right.
Like my fantasy, it's 400 pages, but there's like 50 chapters. And also, when you write multi POV, you kind of have to shorten them up a little bit. Otherwise, it'd be so much about one character,
Right.
if that makes sense. So, like in my fantasy series, um, the story is pretty central around one person.
Okay.
So most book is in her point of view, which is fine when I'm writing the longer chapters and whatever the case may be. This one, because I want everybody represented equally, I have to break it up so you get the important stuff and then you kind of move on in the story. So I have to break it up so that you can have as many interactions with the different characters as possible, and I have to keep it even with
Right.
them as well.
And I think with that many POVs, if you go too far delving into one character, you also overlap because they meet and they talk, and but while all of that's going on, you have everybody's thinking different things. So if you go too far, then you have to go back, and then that would be the confusing that I was afraid was going to happen.
Which is why I don't do that. I'm like, nope, keep it short, sweet, and to the point, and
Yeah.
then more when you guys are together.
Yeah, because I've seen that happen, and I think that's probably why I was afraid that's the way it was going to be. Because I'm like, no, when a book starts doing that, I'm done. Like, unless it's two characters POVs and then they meet and then it's one, then you know. Otherwise, it can get really confusing.
Yeah.
But what made you decide? You said you talked to your mom. What made you go self-publish rather than try to get it traditionally?
I think because I know how difficult, just from what everybody else was saying on YouTube, especially. I watch a lot of YouTube when I first started, and talking about how difficult it is and how it can really mess with you as an author to get all that rejection. And I'm like, you know, I feel like I can get this story across myself,
Right.
for what I need to do. Originally when I wrote it, it was really for me and my friends. I wasn't expecting it to be any more than that. So I'm like, I don't really need it to be on a grand scale for this story. Like I want it to be for what I need it to be.
Right.
And the people that want to read it will read it. And so it kind of grew a little bit since that, but like I said, it was originally just for me and my friends and my family. I wasn't really writing for anything more than that. And I really am glad I did it that way, when I look back, because now that I'm going through the traditional route, I've been querying the book that I just wrote for about 5 months now. And I've made so many changes and things through that. And you get a lot of rejection. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
don't count. I'm like, what am I going to do that for? But you get a lot. And if this was my debut, I could really see it messing with me if, I didn't have people that have already read my books and liked them and had good things to say. I'm like, okay, this helps me get through there. Glad I
Mm-hmm.
did it. But that's why I decided, because it was really just for me and my friends.
Yeah. I well, and yeah, when you get that much rejection, like you get one or two, you're like, okay, that person didn't really like it. It wasn't for them. But I don't know how people like what's his name that wrote Aragon? He went through 68 rejections, in like 15 years. It was just like, no, I'm done. And then suddenly somebody liked it. It's like, how does that work? Like, how do you not just say, I'm done? I
It's
obviously I suck.
it's hard. I tell you, I've had moments where I was just like, I'm just gonna walk away from my man. I didn't mean it, but I'm gonna walk away. I just can't do it. And then I go back to the positive reviews that I've had, or when people that and it's literally at that moment when somebody will come up to me having just finished book one or book two or finishing book three, and they come up to me and they're like, "This is so awesome. I really appreciate the story. Like, you're such a good writer." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, I can do this." So it that's helping me get through. I don't know how debuts do it. I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine.
Well, and back when I self-published my first novel, Unknown Revenge, that I'm about to pull, it was taboo, and so I I kind of didn't have either way. I was screwed because if I went traditionally, I knew I was going to get rejected at some point. But if I self-published, I told, oh yeah, people, I just self-published my book, and they're like, oh, so you can't cut it? Why would I read it? It's like, huh, okay. So, and then that's why I started this author spotlight, because I think as self-publishers, we have to wear so many hats, which means we have to research so much and platforms and ways
Oh
to
yeah.
do things and software. And I'm still doing it because I went through a self-publishing company then and got taken to the ringers and didn't get half of what I wanted done. So I'm still learning 10 years later as technology progresses and things like that. So, I have to applaud people that have not only self-published but had people read it and love it and kept going, because you finish one, you're like, okay, that was cool, pat on the back, I'm good. But I mean, you've got three and you're trying to traditionally publish while you're self-publishing, and I just think that's awesome. And so I wanted to kind of give everybody an insight into how it works and people that are doing it and have done it. So, you know, if you
Thank you for.
if you don't get, I guess, what's your window for the traditionally published book you want to try?
Oh gosh, I was going back and forth with this with my mom, and I was saying a year. I said after a year, you know what? Like I'm just gonna hire me a really awesome cover designer and have them do what I want them to do, because I know what it looks like in my head. I know what
Mm-hmm.
the cover looks like, and I'm just gonna get me an editor, and I'm gonna go do my thing, And my mom's like, "You can't do that. Work on something else." And I'm like, "No, I need to have some instant gratification here." And she's like, "No, this book, you need to go traditional." So I am only sitting on the sidelines because of my mother at this
Oh
point,
wow.
telling me I trust her judgment. And she's like, "No, you need to go traditional with this one. Like you need to get it out on a broader scale." So I'm like, okay. So that's the only reason I'm sitting on the sidelines. But I'll probably give this thing another year, a couple of really good shots, and effort, and then I'm gonna probably go on my own, because I love the story. I love what it talks about, and I want to get it out into the world.
Yeah.
So
Well, and the good thing about it is you have Twitter, so there's all kinds of contests every month, and
yeah, I just
there's.
did, and now I'm getting ready for Pitch Wars, which is in August of this year. Now they moved it back, so I love Twitter. Twitter is the best thing since sliced bread for authors. Seriously.
Oh yeah, if you, for people watching, if you haven't used Twitter to try to get out there, if your manuscript is finished, whether it's polished or not, if it's finished and you've at least done one edit, you have to try to get into some of these contests, because they have literary agents and they can actually open doors for you. I know a few authors who have done that, whose books are amazing, who would have done great self-publishing, but wanted to go the traditional route, and so I applaud them for it. I don't do it as often as I should because I've got so much going on, but that's my 2019 goal, is to query and find every single contest there is on Twitter and write my synopsis 20 different ways so I can do that.
Yeah, and I
So,
will say too, another thing that I will tell people that are trying to traditionally publish on Twitter you need to check out hashtag MSWL. That's hashtag MSWL. That means manuscript wish list. And agents literally go on there and they put
Yep.
their wish. I want this book. If you have this book or something similar to this, or you have this genre, I need you to query me because that's what I want right now. And
Yeah.
that's huge because you can even put in there, I'm responding to you on Twitter and your subject line if you guys had some correspondence, and they will get back to you personally. So I definitely think you need to check that out if you are on Twitter.
Yeah. I will get with you after we're done and put some hashtags because there's a couple. There's that, and then the work in progress and Twitter wars,
Yeah.
and there's a
Or
lot of
Get
yeah.
Mad, there's so many.
Yeah, we'll get some hashtags together, and I'll put those down in the description afterwards, so we can give everybody kind of a leg up on that.
Absolutely. You definitely do it. It's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, I think I've got a page started of just somewhere here in all this mess of every hashtag there is to help authors out, because I do want to do a video on that, and it's kind of cool that you say you use that too, because I think
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely a way to get a leg up on getting an agent and trying to get traditionally published.
Absolutely.
Now, you said book 4 and book 5 are definitely in progress or in thoughts of progress.
I actually have a few words to look for, so I'm making progress on it.
Okay. All right. So I'm definitely going to be looking forward to that. You'll have to let me know when you get it done so I can get to reading that, since I have 1 through 3. Um, so what does the rest of 2018 look like? You finished the one book and you're trying to traditionally publish that. You started book 4. What else you got going?
Well, I have, like I said, I have the YA fantasy that is done. So that one is literally just going to be query torture for the
Do they have a
next.
title yet?
Yes, it's called The Land of Alasia, and it's The Enchanted Awakening. So the series is called The Land of Alasia, and that book is called The Enchanted Awakening. And Alasia is the main character for that book. So yes, it's like witches and vampires and mutants and all kinds of fun deliciousness that I love. So
Oh, nice. So everybody write that down and keep a lookout for her saying, I got a deal.
yes, that book. I'm like a huge Harry Potter and Twilight fan, so I'm like I cannot let the witches and vampires go. I need more. I need more of them, because it was such a big part of my life growing up, And I'm
Yeah.
like, let them go. So I'm gonna write it since none of what I want is happening in the world.
That's,
So
that's
I,
exactly why I started my series, because I was like, I see vampires and werewolves. I see witches. I see Greek gods, but I see none of these put together. What's wrong with this picture? Oh, screw it. I'll just write it myself.
yes. Exactly. Like I need you to put all of this in one book for me. And if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it myself. So I'm working on trying to get that one agented. So we'll see how that goes. I have book 4 that I want to have completed by December 1st. That is when the release date is. So I need to have it completed sometime this summer. And then I have also started working on 2 romance novels. I'm about halfway through. Those are standalones.
Okay.
So I started writing those because they came to me and then it got interrupted by something else that I was working on. But I do have those. So I would love to finish one of those in time for Christmas as well. Because romance, Christmas, it just kind of all fits together. So I would love to have one of those done by Christmas, so I can get that out as well. And then I'm doing conferences with my mom. So we just finished
Nice.
our first. She writes books, Shameless Poker. I think I have them up here. Oh, um, these are her books. She writes poetry and children's books.
Nice.
So we just did a writers conference April 28th, and we had 10 aspiring authors come out, and we basically told them everything we know. And it was called hold on, I got that too. I'm at my little workstation, so I have everything. So it's called So You Want to Write a Book Now What? And we just talk about like going from the idea phase to figuring out what you want to do with publishing, and we go through all of that. It was about a day, it was about 6 or 7 hours long, and it was fantastic. And we had a lot of really great feedback and responses from it. So we are planning another one September 15th. And then we're having a book signing for our new books December 1st. So that's the plan.
Nice.
So I have a lot going on this
Wait,
year.
so you're doing a book signing on release day?
Yes.
That's awesome. I very
Mm-hmm.
rarely see that. That's awesome.
That's what I did for the first book, and it was really cool because a lot of people they came and they got the book, and we got to talk about it before they even got to read it. So like a lot of them went home and they finished the book like that night, and I was getting all kind of messages and stuff. But I got to read chapters from the book, and yeah, it was awesome. We had about when I did mine, I think I had maybe 35, 40 people that came, and then when my mom did hers, she had about the same. So this time we're doing it together. So who knows what's going to happen?
Nice. Now I have to ask, because you're going to have so many books for this series, how do you come up, just so everyone knows, there's a quote in every chapter at the beginning. How do you not run out of quotes about, well, I mean, it is about life, but about the specificness to the book?
So here's really funny story. So I love Google, right? Google's awesome. So when I pick a topic that I'm going to write on, I literally type in this thing quotes in Google and hit search. And it brings up like thousands of quotes related or quotes or poems or whatever related to that topic.
Huh.
And I was like, this is fantastic. And then if there isn't one that would quite fit what I want it to be, you'll see an Ella York quote in there. Like I made my own. I'm like, this is what I want to say. So I'm going to quote myself. So when you see the Ella York quotes, those I made up because I did not find one that was exactly what I wanted. But you would be surprised at what you find. And they're all in these pretty colors. Google's fantastic.
I've never thought of doing that.
Mm-hmm. It's great. You should definitely do it.
Because I'm gonna have to do that now, just for, even if it's nothing but affirmation quotes for myself. I'm definitely gonna have to do that.
Say motivational quotes search.
That's, yeah. I'm gonna have to do that.
Search. Right. Oh, search. You find everything.
That's,
Fantastic.
you know what? You just taught me something. I don't think I've literally ever thought of doing that.
Google.
As great as Google is, I don't think I've ever thought of doing that.
Google and you know what's so another thing about Google, I love Google by the way. So Google, yeah. So we were sitting there and I'm like, my book, you have all these different places in the world that they're going, and not this book, but in the fantasy one. They're traveling all over the world looking for these amulets.
Right.
So I'm like, I need these beautiful, like magical places. Google, find me some magical places around the world. I could not even or like the prettiest places in the world to travel. And there's so many searches that came up. I ended up finding these like fantastic places that I would have never thought to look for. So Google, yes, you need to do Google search. That
I
thing is fantastic.
I did a Google search for dangerous places once, but I actually found YouTube had a couple uh, videos on, like, the most dangerous places you don't want to swim and things like that for my next book. I was like, I might have to do that with Google. Add that to my to-do list.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely.
Well, I thank you for coming. I can't say any more about these books. I absolutely loved them. I'm so glad you're going to continue with the series. I was kind of wondering if it was going to wrap up in book 3, but I'm glad it's not. So,
Oh, book drama, girl, drama.
it's like book
It is
2 was getting pretty
it
good.
is the title verse. Everybody has drama.
And I like how you separated them. You know, each book pretty much all their lives fall apart. Book 2 is kind of the transitioning, I guess is the way I've titled it. So the rebirth kind of gives me an idea of how that's gonna go. So I can't wait to see how it continues.
Yes, it's good. Book 3 is one of my favorites. So
Well, I've
that should
got
be
all your links down below. If I don't, I will, but I think I have them all, and I'll add the hashtags for aspiring writers, authors, and congratulations on the 3 so far, and continuing the series for us huge fans now, and getting me out
yeah.
of my comfort zone.
Well, that's the most important part.
Yeah, because I'm definitely such a paranormal reader. I wanted this whole point of the spotlight was to get out of my comfort zone, and I've been pleasantly surprised. Not that I didn't think any of our books were going to be great, but just at how I don't know how quick they grab me,
Yeah.
even though they're not in my just typical genre.
It's
Um,
like books are like music in that sense that like when you have music, you have a certain thing that you like. That is your thing. And then you hear like somebody's like, oh, come to this concert or come listen to this song. And you're like, it's not really my thing. But then you hear
mhm.
it and you're like, oh, okay, this is not bad. Books is the
Yeah,
same way. Have your thing. And then when you get exposed to other things, you're like, oh, this may not be too bad. I can try this.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, I hope you get traditionally published and you can go on both platforms because that would be awesome. But if not, hey, you said you'll self publish it too, so I'll wait around.
It will be awesome if it happens, and I will come back and see you again.
Yeah, definitely. Just like if you do get a book deal, you better remember I'm the first one that gets an interview.
Listen, I will be back. I'll be back.
All right, when you get December 1st, we'll have to figure something out to continue this with every book you do for this series, definitely. And yeah, just thank you so much for coming on. I absolutely adored the books. I loved having you. I love your videos on YouTube. And yeah, I don't know that I can say more.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Ella, for, like I said, letting me interview. And we will see you in December.
Thank you for having me, and I'll see you in December.
All right, y'all have a great day. Bye,
Thank you,
guys.
everybody.